Ford rivalry Ferrari exposed what actually happened. Ken Miles should have been a legend. Instead, his greatest triumph was stolen from him by the very company he helped turn into a racing dynasty. But here's the wild part. Ford v Ferrari, the 2019 blockbuster, gets huge chunks of the story wrong, and some parts so right, they'll blow your mind. This is Fact versus Film, where we tear apart Hollywood's best stories and reveal the shocking truth behind them. And today, we're diving into one of racing's most brutal betrayals, epic rivalries, and forgotten heroes. By the end, you'll see why the real Ford versus Ferrari was more dramatic and more heartbreaking than anything Hollywood dared to show. The Ferrari betrayal. The movie starts with Ford trying to buy Ferrari. Sounds dramatic? It was. But Hollywood cut out some jaw-dropping details. The truth, Ford did try to buy Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari even drew up mock logos combining both companies. But when he realized he'd lose control of his racing team, he erupted in the most savage rant of his life, calling Ford's execs worthless sons who built ugly cars for a pig-headed boss. Ford's revenge? As simple as it was iconic, fine. We'll beat him on the track. Oh, and that scene where Fiat swoops in to save Ferrari? Total Hollywood fiction. Fiat didn't buy Ferrari until 3 years later. Shelby joins Ford. In the movie, Ford gives Carroll Shelby a blank check to save the day. Reality? Shelby was no outsider miracle worker. He was already deep in Ford's corner. By 1964, his Cobras were already humiliating Corvettes in America and nearly winning Le Mans. He wasn't a gamble. He was Ford's secret weapon. So when Ford called about the GT40, it wasn't about taking a chance. It was about unleashing their ace. Ken Miles. The truth and the lies. Christian Bale nails Ken Miles. He was brilliant, blunt, and unstoppable behind the wheel. But Hollywood gave him a cartoon villain to fight, Leo Beebe, the Ford exec, supposedly trying to ban him. That's fake drama. Ken Miles wasn't banned in 1965. He was in France, racing for Ford, setting lap records until his gearbox failed. Not at home dancing in California. And that big bet the company's seen with Shelby? Pure Hollywood. Shelby was smart. He didn't risk everything on one driver. The forgotten first failure. Here's a fact the film completely skips. Ford's 1964 Le Mans disaster. Why cut it? Probably because watching two failures back-to-back would tank the pacing. But it hides something huge. Ford wasn't just a scrappy underdog. They were using cutting-edge tech, primitive computers, engine torture chambers, even exploding V8s in testing, to engineer a machine that couldn't break. This wasn't David versus Goliath. This was Goliath building a bigger slingshot. The racing reality. At Daytona 66, Miles didn't squeak out a win. He dominated. Finished 30 miles ahead. Hollywood made it look close for tension. At Sebring, the real drama happened. Dan Gurney and Miles pushed each other so hard that Shelby had to wave them down from the pit wall. Then Gurney's car died on the final lap, forcing him to push it by hand, only to be disqualified. Miles won. That's pure cinema. But somehow the movie left it out. Quarisers Le Mans 1966. Here's where the movie shines and lies. Ferrari, not even close. By midnight, they were basically out. The real fight was Ford versus Ford. Dan Gurney was leading until his engine blew. Only then did Miles take the lead. And the infamous photo finish? It happened. But not like that. Miles was way ahead, so dominant he was on pace to lap every car except his Ford teammates. Ford slowed him down to stage the photo. His response? Heartbreakingly professional. I considered we had won, but we were placed second by a technicality. The tragedy. 2 months later, Ken Miles was killed testing Ford's experimental J car. Thrown from the car at over 200 miles per hour, the exact cause of the crash was never proven. Many believed it wasn't driver error. Hollywood shows fire. Reality was far stranger and far sadder. The forgotten heroes. And maybe the film's biggest omission, the hundreds of engineers, mechanics, and drivers who made Ford's victory possible. Shelby and Miles were stars, yes, but Dan Gurney, the Daytona Coupe team, Holman and Moody, even British aerodynamics experts, they were the backbone. Hollywood erased them for a cleaner story. Final revelation. Here's what the movie didn't dare show. When Ford ordered Miles to slow down, he wasn't just leading. He was delivering one of the most dominant performances in racing history. He turned the GT40 from a liability into a legend and got robbed of the win that would have made him immortal. That's the real Ford versus Ferrari, not just cars, not just rivalry. But the tragedy of brilliance denied its moment of glory. Ken Miles deserved better from history. But thanks to Christian Bale's performance, he's finally getting the recognition he earned. If you're obsessed with the real story's Hollywood twists, you're in the right place. Subscribe now because the truth is always more dramatic than the movie.